living across the way. I had to come back and forth all day. First of all, I'm here for a specific issue. I want to thank our Senator Crum for putting forth and working so hard on Senate File Bill 116 that talks about the surface water drainage issue and it's kind of a mess in Albany County, okay, and in Laramie County. And as an attorney, how I saw the bill was that it was cleaning up the statute, okay, to make it clear. And I'm just curious, and since Senator Crago's here too, I'm curious as why you would change your vote and why you wouldn't support that to clean up that bill, because now we have litigation. For how many years, I don't know.
So I'll speak to it. Thank you, Gary, for letting me take this one. No, it's good. I'm more than pleased to. So certainly you have a local issue, and they have it in other community too. The legislation would have affected other communities that have already been doing this. So when we try to fix local problems at the state level, there are consequences all around. We have zoning things or something come out of another county. Other counties, there you go. Other counties are not interested in that, right? Because they don't have that problem. They're not dealing with it. So I hope that actually in the interim, the Select Water Committee will actually take that issue up and have a full hearing of it. Okay. And I truly believe that is the appropriate way to do it. The legislative process is a deliberative process. It is a deliberative process where we actually should get all the information, the broadest set of information, and then try to make the most informed decision that doesn't impact one community. There's 99 municipalities in the state of Wyoming. 1, 2 were having trouble. 3 or 4 were actually already using this system, and it was going to hijack them, that particular legislation. And Gary and I talked about this. I mean, we talked about it respectfully. Hey, Gary, we're going down a road here where you're impacting Evanston and Cody, very specifically, have been doing this for 10 or 15 years. And they're not having the same consternation that your community is. So that's the balance you have to have, in my view. You have to have that balance of everybody come to the table. Let's have this conversation. I am confident that this week, your city council will start pulling back that ordinance. They told me, they assured the legislature that they're gonna start first reading to repeal it, and Cheyenne's doing the same thing. So I think that will not move forward in your community. Now the lawsuit, that's up to somebody else. That's a different branch of government. Sorry.
And what about the other communities that haven't dealt with this yet? I mean, the bill would have said you put it to a vote of the people, and when it got voted down, it took our vote away. It did, and it's in the statute clearly that it should be to the vote of the people.
Well, I think the court is going to weigh in on whether they agree with that, right? As an attorney, you were going to wait for the court. You're willing to wait for the court to say that, because there is litigation, correct?
Right, but you had an opportunity in the legislature.
And we would have hijacked 2 other communities who are using it effectively without their community being concerned about it. That's the difference.
Yeah, and so this thing.
Sorry, you're gonna outdoor voices.
So Senator Barlow and I have had some wonderful conversations, and we've kind of come on this deal. We're going to agree to disagree, which is okay. That's part of the legislative process. I certainly believe that the statute in section 15 in the statute says that you can form a stormwater utility district, and communities have done that and operate stormwater utility districts, and that's totally fine. But then over in statute in 16, it says, it's really clear to me, that it says that if you're gonna do, and it lists about 7 things, and one of them is stormwater drainage, that you must take it to the voters to do that. A couple communities we've heard have not done that. Evanston and Cody didn't do it, Laramie and Cheyenne didn't do it, but Evanston and Cody kind of went into debt to do it. So I brought an amendment to the bill, which did pass to the bill, that said, if you're doing it and you've got debt, you can continue to operate and pay off your debt but you can't do any new stuff. So we went through the Senate, went through committees, passed, and got all the way third reading, passed through third reading, and then they had a reconsideration bill where it got reintroduced. And so, and then it got voted down. First time it passed, I think it was 17-14, lost 13-18. So we are where we are. I think Senator Barlow is 100% correct. Where we all wanted it to go anyway was into the interim, where we can sit down and have a comprehensive look and have an intelligent conversation without a lot of emotion, and really just figure out what is operating for a stormwater utility. How do you make sure your grates are replaced? How do you get trees out of your stormwater system? How do you maintain that system? And then you got the part of how do you fix your system or grow it, or whatever you want to say there. I think there's two parts, and we need to figure that out in the interim. That is not defined in the statute. It says if you're going to do it, you will go to the voters. And there was a lot of pushback from folks around the state, from WAM in particular. WAM's the Wyoming Association of Municipalities. And they won. And so we need to respect that. That's our system, and we need to respect our system. And we're going to work through it in the interim. And but we do need to follow statutes and as we go forward. So we're gonna work on it hard. I know we're gonna come up with a great solution in the interim, everybody working together, all communities working together. And like I say, we need to respect the system. The system spoke. You know, we talk about in a lot of other instances, which I don't wanna get into tonight, but how people don't follow the rules and they're throwing things and nobody tends to pay. We just need to follow the system and trust the system. So I respectfully disagree, and I know Senator Barlow feels the same. He respectfully disagrees with me, and that's okay. That is truly okay.
But we both respect the process.
We both respect the process, and I think we both understand what happened.
Senator Crago, anything to add to that? Anything to add to that, sir?
No, I mean, I think that's a good summation of what happened. I too went and talked to Gary about it. It would have affected a couple of the communities in my district as well. I respect what the senator was trying to do for his district, which is why I helped him get it as far as I could. But I think the bill there was a lot of holes in the bill, and by that, what I mean is and he talked about it, right? There's these two different things we're talking about, and the bill would have covered all of those up. And so what we were able to do was get a commitment, I think, from the municipalities to come to the table, solve your problem without creating problems for all the other communities that are already doing some of this. And some of it's on such a small scale that we don't even, you don't notice, and they were worried that it would prevent them from even spending their own dollars, much less taxing in on top of what they were already doing, like is happening in your community, which I think we all agree. I agree with Gary, we shouldn't be doing that. We agreed with him, and we had that conversation. I talked to him about it. What's the goal here? If our goal is to get to the interim, I think we can do that, which we did. So I think that's the end. The end goal, and that's where we got where we wanted to go.
Thank you.
I think I'm seeing a bipartisan sharing here between two senators in the legislature.
Well, we're both Republicans.
We're both Republicans.
He seems pretty progressive. I don't know about Senator Barlow, but I'm appreciating. He didn't change parties after running against Brassel last time, because I want to support James Stogart in the race. But my question is, we gave a raise to the teachers, which, like you said, is decades in the making, and should have been done a long time ago. But we also, according to the Wyoming Public Media, reduced the number of teachers that are gonna have to be teaching our children, or in my case, grandchildren, great-grandchildren.
So recalibration is a formula. So it's how many teachers per students in a classroom, base salary, and the thing I would say about legislation is it changes in a day. And it may change significantly one day to the next. And that changed. So the classroom size was at 25, I think 6 through 8 or 6 through 9. It went down to 22. So the formula, it works out in the formula that we're putting in 100 million plus more dollars per year into teacher salaries. That's pretty significant.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. And personal question, I don't know what your age is, Senator Barlow, but you look like you might be in pretty good shape.
You want to do some push-ups? No.
Well, no, I'm still working on it. I'm 72. I still have to work out twice a day. I'm just wondering what you do. I mean, you know,
I work on the ranch when I'm home.
okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, some other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Gary?
I've always considered myself agent of change. And I'd like to know from Senator Barlow, what are a couple things you think we need to change in Wyoming to succeed?
Well, you keep electing good people.
That's, we know.
You keep electing good people. I mean,
One word.
vote. Yeah, vote. So let's just get this out of the way.
Vote.
27% of the eligible voters voted in the last primary election.
I'm not kidding. I'm just supporting
27%.
Jimmy.
So if everybody in this room voted, that means 3 of your neighbors did not vote. Did not vote. That's significant. Now, you want them to be informed voters too, right? But that's on all of us. That's on all of us to be informed. You know, so what's the most significant thing? Engagement. 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 Yeah. That's too tall for me. You're fine.
Yeah, I mean.
Anyway, so that would be one thing I would say is voter engagement. You want to give one?
Yeah, that was gonna be the first one I threw out too, was go vote. And then I think the other thing that we need to do as Wyoming is remember what got us here, right? Wyoming is a state where we a lot on a handshake, the code of the West, right? What needs to change is we need to go back to the code of the West, right? Where a man's word is a man's word, we agree on a handshake. You know, I'm not gonna try to trample all over you, you're not gonna try to trample all over me, but yet we're all one community working together for the same thing. So we need to go back to that code of the West on where we're at, would be, so 1, 2. Rick?
Well, the thing that irked me about the situation with the stormwater was not that it passed or failed, but how it happened. After it looked like the vote was settled and a number of us came over, we were over in Cheyenne, apparently the lobbyists were working behind the scenes. Most of us have day jobs. We can't stay and follow these things after we think they're settled. And it wasn't on the calendar, but suddenly it was reversed and we had no idea, we were blindsided. How can we improve the process so that the people have a voice when changes like this are being discussed?
Well, so the rules allow what happened. And that's just the bottom line. We have a set of rules in the legislature about how things can come up. The motions, when they're in order, when they're not, and it was within the process. I mean, I'm not saying that's a fair answer for you for not knowing, but I'm just saying that nothing was done nefarious in that. There is a motion on the floor, the motion was to reconsider, there's 2 votes, and that's the way it went. And it happens. It'll happen again this week, I'll bet you. There'll be a bill that'll probably, this one might actually fail, and somebody will say, I voted incorrectly, or I didn't understand, I want to reconsider the vote. So I would bet you'll see the same type of process this week on a completely different issue that you might not have any interest in. This one you did, so it's concerning, I get that. But we have the rules that allow it, just the way it is.
I certainly didn't, personally, I didn't like it, right? But that was the rule.
Yeah.
And we have to respect the rule, you know, and if we need to change the rules, that's a whole nother process to talk about changing the rules out there. And one thing I find out about, I don't like the result, obviously, but one thing I know about rules, we don't like it today, but boy, we're gonna like that rule maybe tomorrow. And when we start changing rules, there's those unintended consequences out there, and we need to make sure we look at the big picture. We can certainly look at changing the rule because it happened to us this time, but there might be a time that I want to use that rule to do something for the betterment of the people of Albany County too. So the rules are, not to say we can't look at changing them, but we need to look at the big picture when we go to talking about changing long-standing rules.
I saw a hand back there somewhere earlier. Nope. Now they've given up.
Megan, you've got to have something, right? I'm picking on you.
Thanks for supporting education. Really appreciate it. Colleges, the universities, so grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
So if a primary objective is to not have young people leave the state, and I think it makes a lot of sense that if there are jobs available, people will tend to stick around to their home state. So I assume that the business council that funding got whacked for is working towards bringing jobs to Wyoming and is part of that equation. So what was it in the business council that they weren't doing that needed this to be whacked so hard, and then to say, well, we're going to look at efficiency and look at this and that. So what were they doing wrong that wasn't getting the objective of creating jobs?
So let's talk about number one. I was fully supported to fully fund the business council. Okay, that's
The Senate actually voted.
and the Senate voted for that. So you're talking to three guys that voted fully to fund it. But let's talk about.
No, we're talking Code of the West.
Yeah, yeah.
What is it about
Yeah,
the Code of the
yeah,
West
yeah,
here
yeah. So-
that isn't working?
Yeah,
that
so let's talk now why it ended up where it's at. Let's use one prime example. The University of Wyoming was gonna get cut in the budget, right? Severely. We all know that. Did you hear anything from the Business Council about our number one economic driving institution in the state and the legislature ought to support the University of Wyoming? Did you hear anything about that from the Business Council? The organization that's supposed to advocate for economic development was watching the number one driver of economic development get cut and stayed silent. There's one example. Other examples are we've spent millions and millions of dollars on business parks around the state, and without picking out communities that are completely vacant after 2 decades. They weren't very well thought out, right? I mean, they weren't the business parks are there, the money was put in, but we all live in a results-driven world. There was no results from the money that was spent. And you can go on and on this, but I think there's tremendous support. Obviously, I support the Business Council. I'm the only guy in Laramie, so everybody knows, that's been ahead of an Economic Development Association 3 times. I was president of the local group 3 times. I'm for economic development, but I'm for responsible economic development. We've got a really good economic developer I see sitting, hiding in the back corner, in Brad Enzi. We are so fortunate to have Brad in this community. But we've got to get, and I think what this is gonna do this summer in the interim is we're gonna look at what the Business Council really needs to look like and hear from folks in this, others in this room, what the Business Council needs to look like and how we can get more results for the millions and millions of dollars that are being put into it, how you can actually see results to keep kids here. I have 4 kids. 4. And I got 1 living in Atlanta, I got 1 in Nebraska, I got 1 in Montana, and 1 in Colorado.
We don't have a professional football team.
Yeah. But I'd like to have them all, I'm jealous, I want them all close to me. But we need to get them, we gotta find jobs and get them back here. And then to do that is we spend money in the state. If we spend it on economic development, it needs to find results, and the state needs to be repaid for the money that we spend, right? We need to get our return, whether it's in tax revenue, whether it's in repayment of loans. We need to be repaid. We aren't a charity where we just give money away and with nothing back for it.
I'd say there's another thing that's probably a bit of a misnomer. The Wyoming Business Council, we actually weren't supporting businesses, we were supporting communities so they could support businesses. That's why you have this infrastructure. And a lot of this infrastructure is ways out there. What you need, Jan?
Oh, I just want a question whenever.
Oh, you're raising your hand for a question.
Whatever.
Okay. So I think we actually, and there's 95 pages of statute, green book, about the Business Council. So if they weren't doing what they need to be doing, that's partially on us too, right? The legislature. Are we giving the guidance that's necessary to the board so that the board understands that, and we fund to have that out. So we need to have a self-reflection, not just Wyoming, but the legislature as well. And I think that's what we will have in the next year. I believe that. And I believe we'll get to a place where, what is the proper role? Let's think about the tourism. We have a Wyoming Office of Tourism, right? They are selling Wyoming, so people come here and, enjoy this place, spend their money here, et cetera, et cetera. That's one. We have to probably think about that as in the business council as well. How do we let people understand what the business climate in Wyoming, the benefits of being in business in Wyoming are, and then how can we get them here? We've done a pretty good job in some communities, but the communities have always taken the lead. In the most recent years, the communities are taking the lead. So this is partnerships. That's where maybe we've not focused well enough. These are partnerships that make this work. With industry, businesses, with local communities, and the state where it's appropriate. That's how I think, it's gonna look different, and I think it'll be more effective going forward. All right, Ms. Hooper.
Okay, so I want to thank you both, all three of you, for supporting the University of Wyoming, because I don't know that when you take an axe to something that needs a scalpel, I mean, if we look at the ramifications, right now the university is undergoing a search for a president. So you have to ask yourself, who in their right mind would want to apply for a job when in the headlines, the institution that you want to apply to is saying, gee, we could be out $41 million with maybe more down the road. So I applaud you and I thank you for supporting the university and looking long-term for my grandchildren and my kids. And secondly, I do understand about the business council. I'd like you to address, because you talk about infrastructure, I'd like you guys to talk about, if you would, water in Wyoming right now, and where we're at with, because we have some treaties that are coming up. And then also, in Laramie, I know Brad has worked hard. We have a problem with Rocky Mountain Power. We cannot get electricity into Albany County to, help businesses. They want to have power so that they can, build a business, and we can't get it.
So, a couple of those, and then
We can get used to Barry.
Yeah, we should turn this. Couple things on water. Certainly, for those that don't know, the Green River Compact comes to an end on June 30th, and or did I say Green River feeds into the Colorado. But for us it's the Colorado River Compact. There's the upper basin states, the lower basin states. We're part of the upper basin states, and then you've got the lower basin, which is Nevada, California, Arizona, and then the Baja of California is kind of down in there too, of California, which is in Mexico. But, and so the bottom line is, we've got all the water rights, right? The number one water rights are up here in Wyoming and Colorado. We don't use all our water, and so we send it downstream, and therefore Colorado's using some right, they're piping it over the hill into Denver. Arizona, who would have thought when this thing was put together 100 years ago that Las Vegas would look the way it looks, Phoenix would look the way it looks, and so they've used this water. And so now we're in a big discussion about whose water is it? Is it Wyoming's? Is it the upper basin or the lower basin? And with that, who knows what Pinedale looks like 100 years from now, or Green River looks like 100 years from now? We just don't know. And so the discussion is, how do we continue to work together and let those folks use water but yet preserve our rights? And that's the big discussion going on right now. We also need to remember from Wyoming, sometimes in lawsuits, I see a few attorneys left, but I know there's a couple here. Sometimes the person that has the most money wins if you get into a big battle. California and Arizona and Nevada have a lot more money than Wyoming. And so we need to be very strategic and be a partner working together on this compact to make sure we preserve our rights. I don't think there's a clear result yet. I mean, it's a very complicated thing, but I know we need to stand up for our rights, but we need to act like a partner too. We can't go in as a bully where we got the number one water rights and you guys go fly a kite. That isn't gonna work either. So we've gotta work together on this. And the outcome, maybe the good senator knows the outcome, but what the outcome I know is we need to protect Wyoming and work together so we do protect Wyoming. If we go in as a bully, we're gonna find out who the bully is here pretty quick, and we don't want that. We wanna work together with folks, and we will come up. I believe we've got really smart people in the water department. I believe we will have a good solution for Wyoming when it ends.
So we're adding both resources on the technical side and the legal side to the Attorney General's office and to the State Engineer's office to help with this. We are out-resourced when it comes to legal and engineering type expertise, and the legislature is funding that improvement in our capability. And Senator Craig was actually on the committee, the Ag Committee, and Select Water, I think, not Select Water anymore, he was, that has actually been saying we gotta have a team that we can go into battle with to that point. Certainly the U.S., the federal government's a part of this too. This is not just, it's a big deal. On the electricity thing, did she leave?
No.
Did Tammy leave?
No, right there. She just went to the back.
No, I'm right here to help.
On the, and there's a lot more to talk about with water, and Barry Craig could probably answer for it. But on the electricity thing, as all of you are hearing, there is a lot of demand for electricity. And our utilities are either unable or unwilling to deliver to the demand, right? And now, there's other folks that are concerned about that demand and what its impact is to ratepayers, to residential and business current folks. So there's a tension there. And what you're seeing, and I met with folks this past week, data centers, they're just gonna go behind the grid, they're gonna generate their own electricity. So there's several things going on in that. We have cooperatives in my part of the state, which are getting huge industrial loads, oil and gas, and they're having a hard time servicing that. So there's a lot of tensions in this. Yeah, so you have distant demands, demands out, remote demands, so you gotta build power lines into, and then you got demands right on the I-80 corridor, the fiber corridor, that people want to do data with, and there's a lot of demands. But we have the resources that we can do a lot of this, right? Natural gas, we can generate a lot of electricity in a short amount of time. In my country, the nuclear space is starting to open up, and we see some opportunities for the entire life cycle. Not long-term waste, let's be clear. I'm not interested in long-term waste in Wyoming, but we have the ability. The uranium mines are 25 miles from where Barry and I live. They're right there. We've been mining it for 60 years, but it leaves, just like our coal leaves. I'd like to have more generation of electricity in Wyoming, fueling the industries that we can have here, and keeping our rates affordable. Keeping our rates affordable. So I think there's a lot to do in that. A lot to do. Now, if there's any good news I've heard about Rocky Mountain Power, everybody's gonna groan, I know. But they're actually liquidating out of Washington State. 11% of their, I think it's 11%, isn't that right, Holly? I think it's 11%. 11% of their customer base is in Washington State. Well, where are they getting some of their political demands from? The West Coast. So as that ratchets down, hopefully that gives our state and Utah and Idaho a bigger seat at the table to actually say, we have the resources here. We don't need some of the mandates that are coming from the West Coast, and that should help all of us.
On a more local level, where we're at and what's going on, and Brad's much more involved in this than I am. But about a year ago, I sat down with Rocky Mountain Power and said, "Hey, you got to help us here in Laramie. We're basically out of power, for those who are unaware." To really grow our town, what excess power we had went into the cement plant south of town and their expansion. They're taking pretty much all of our excess power. So we have power, we can build a house here and there, but we really couldn't even put in a large subdivision at this point because we're out of power. And so we've got to find a way to bring power in. I met with them a year ago. We've been meeting with them quite a bit through the spring, summer, and still conversations, but they have agreed to bring another transmission line in to Laramie. It's not going to allow for a huge data center to come in, but it'll allow for us to grow. So Rocky Mountain Power will be bringing that in. I think we'll see more help from Rocky Mountain Power as they move out of the Northwest Washington and Oregon and focus more on the Rocky Mountain states. The other things that are in the works and we're working on is trying to get some local power generation, like they're doing in Cheyenne. They're gonna build a big data center, for those who are unfamiliar. That data center in Cheyenne is gonna use more power than's used in the whole state of Wyoming today. One data center. And they're building their own power plant to do that. And we're gonna need to see more of that. The university does it, right? The university right now has two power plants that generate part of the use for power up on the university. We're gonna need to see more of what I'm calling micro power plants. Good Senator is exactly right. We need to focus more on coal, uranium, natural, things that we produce here. We have a coal-fired power plant right in the middle of Laramie, right in the middle of town. It's very clean, right? I mean, we don't see any pollution, we don't see anything, because today's technology is so much greater than it was in the 1960s when we see those smokestacks billowing stuff and doing all that type of thing. Not that it can't continue to improve and get better, but we have the ability to build these micro plants, work with Rocky Mountain Power. I am 100% agreement. We're gonna see much improved service from Rocky Mountain Power. There is a whole lot yet to be done. One thing we're working with Rocky Mountain Power on too is with subdivisions. Right, in the past, many years ago, you build a subdivision, the utilities came in, put in their things, and then they charged you for the service when you hooked up. That's not the way it works today. The way it works today, when the utility comes in, you want to put in a subdivision, you pay them now to bring the power in, right? And then you sit on it. I see some developers in the room. You sit on it for many, many years until you sell the lot, and then you get your money back for what you paid into it. We're working with the power companies that they go back to the old model. There's a lot of work to do here, where they bring it in, because they're the ones that's gonna make the profit. And then they charge as you get online and use it, right? That's gonna help our developers, because they don't have to sit on so much money for so long while these developments are being built. So there's things in the works here locally. We're working hard on it, and I think you're gonna see some changes, but power is a huge issue. It's gonna be a huge issue nationally for a long, long time. But there are things in the works, and I think the legislature itself is fully committed to try to figure out ways to bring more power in the state, whether it's micro things or get transmission in here, build our own power generation. I think we're gonna see the first coal-fired power plant in the state, new one being built up in Campbell County for the first time in 15 years in the United States. So things are happening, and it's gonna work, and it's gonna be clean energy too when it comes out. It's gonna be clean energy. So I think things are happening.
There. There's a new hand here.
Bob, you go first.
So we got a couple new hands.
I've heard you comment on uranium and coal, natural gas, and that sort of thing. Where do you folks stand on the increasing development, the needed development of solar and wind energy?
I'm kind of an all the above guy, you know. It's gonna take everything, solar, wind, generation. We have a company in town here that's looking at a way to do wind where it's not so intrusive with the big windmills way up in the air. It runs more on a racetrack that runs around. But I think we need to look at it all. It all offsets and goes into the grid and helps. The thing we all know about solar and wind is kind of unpredictable at times. And it's a storage issue, right? And here's the other thing with solar and wind is when you really need the power, a lot of times, especially with solar, a lot of times when you really need the power, solar's not producing, right? You need it at night maybe to heat your home, you need it in the evenings when you come home from work, and solar's good when, like at noon. And so we need to figure out, and I know technology will catch up, on how you can harness more of that where it's a more constant stream. But right now, sometimes you're producing all the power and it's not needed, and then when you need it, it's not there. So I'm an all of the above guy, but realize that we've got to find a base where we have steady supply of power.
Certainly every electron matters when you need power. You don't worry about when you put the switch on where that electron came from. But I would say, I don't think that some of these renewables are gonna be near as economical without incentives. And so I think we're gonna see a changing investment schema going forward. I just think that's where we're gonna be.
Sure.
I don't know, and I don't know what private investors are gonna wanna be part of it without the tax credits. So that's what I would say. I think right now we're in a flux, and I don't know where that plays out.
Well, the level playing ground there would be incentives that have already been in place for natural gas, uranium, and coal for years.
Well, we have a pendulum in national energy policy, right? And right now it's kind of a gong show. Where there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of demand. And so I agree with you, let's try to level that out, but right now we're not in a policy place. And Wyoming's not playing in that policy place with the incentives to a great extent. In fact, we just took coal and put it at the same level as oil and gas for severance tax wise from 7 to 6% 2 years ago, finished that. So when we were talking about the war on coal 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Wyoming was charging coal more severance tax than oil and gas. And they're competing in the same market. Natural gas and coal are conceding in the same electron generating market. So I don't know, there's no answer to the energy policy without that discussion about incentives, tax incentives, royalty rates, and all those things. And Wyoming is not that big a player in that. Actually, the federal government just dropped the royalty rate on coal by almost 50%, I think, in the big beautiful bill. Well, that just made Powder River Basin coal maybe more attractive to somebody that wants to build a power plant. Anyway.
Let's get all those things on the table.
Oh, no,
in the
absolutely,
discussion.
I agree. Well, right now, we do not have a generation tax on solar. We tax all the other hydrocarbons fairly high, and wind energy is $1 a megawatt after 3 years. So just think about that for a second. So we don't have some parity in our own state law as well. Mr. Pivot.
So, I know we talk about energy and we talk about electricity, obviously that's my world. One thing that we have to understand that it's not the idea that we're gonna have to build these micro plants around the place. What we need to understand is that Rocky Mountain Power doesn't have the infrastructure, even though they have power everywhere, all these windmills and everything, they don't have the infrastructure to get it to us. So we have to build these small plants, right? What I'm asking is, are we trying to force Rocky Mountain Power to build more infrastructure so we can get more from the grid?
Well, so Rocky Mountain Power is not the only grid building company. There's actually a company building grid from here to the Nebraska line, which is AC/DC tie. And so there's other things happening and other folks that are not utilities per se. They are actually conduits. They are building the power lines to do this. I can't come up with the name of the company.
Grid United.
Thank you, Grid United. Somebody knows. Yeah, the commissioner knows because he's dealing with them. Thanks, Dad. So there are other folks in this space, but you know what? There's a lot of stranded capital in infrastructure and a lot of liability in infrastructure. That's part of the reason Rocky Mountain Power is having so many troubles, right? Pacific Corp, California, fires. Where do you get fires in California, etc.? Grid. The grid is what's doing this, or giving them some challenges. So I think, for me personally, distributed generation is going to be more important as we go forward because of that cost of infrastructure. And that's just me. Other people, I'm not financing it, but I think the financiers are going to start saying, we're going to build these 500, what is it, the West, Transwest? Yeah, Transwest Express. Good golly, that was expensive. And we can be able to do that. Now we're going to have to bring power back to Wyoming out of that. That doesn't make sense. But I think more distributed generation is probably where many more people, and certainly industry is going there. Industry cannot afford to be on public utilities, or will not be able to afford it going forward.
Yeah, just one last thing on power. You look at the state of Wyoming, and if we as a legislature and we as a community can work together on it, Wyoming is positioned so well, right? Because we have the energy resource here in the state to build these micro plants, short transmission distances. If we work together on this, you want to talk about keeping jobs. If we're the state that has power, we're the state that'll attract industry. And so I think you look long-term here as we work through the issues and try to solve it. Wyoming is positioned so very, very well into the future. I think we're in great, we're gonna be in great shape, and we're working to get there, and I think people recognize that.
And the trades, talking about the community colleges a little bit ago, and the university, certainly. The trades are a big part. I've been trying to get Jim Mathis to open up electrician school at Biotech. Look, Jim, you're doing a great job of educating people from somewhere else, and then they go back to where they come from. How about we have, he's open to it. He gets it. So anyway, so electricians are one of those things. Go to Cheyenne, they've got lots of electricians. Go to Wheatland, there's one electrician in Platte County, still in Platte County, and that's an aging gentleman. And the power plant that's there, Basin Electric power plant that's there, has having a hell of a time competing with the demand in Cheyenne. So we've got to grow folks right here. We can do more of that. So that's part of it.
Gary, you're up.
Okay, thanks you. Have a good evening. If you need to leave, just go.
I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
So, back to economic development. I don't want to get the business council involved, but if you two.
Well, right next to Pivot, come on, Bruce can take it.
I'm the one who told him to get on the board.
Thanks, Gary, I love you too.
But if you were selling Wyoming to a company that wants to come into somewhere, what do we have in Wyoming that Texas, Nevada, Florida don't have? How do you sell that?
Just those three, Texas.
And Colorado.
That's all
We
the
have
tax.
public lands. Yeah, we're not. Look, I think let's go back to the character of the people of Wyoming and the opportunities that we are willing to work for. That would be the first thing that I would respectfully say. The work ethic of Wyoming people. You bring a good idea to us and bring the resources needed to help that, I think Wyoming will take it on. Education system that can support it, with hopefully the business climate and communities that will want to be a part of it, right? Not everything fits everywhere. Not everything fits everywhere. I think we just have to have those conversations about where it makes sense. But there's only so many places you can mine coal, or mine uranium, or et cetera, et cetera. So location, 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 I think that's part of it. Quality of life. I've been traveling the state on this other gig that I'm working on, and I hear a lot about how important public lands are. So quality of life, the potential quality of life that people could have if they came here, and for our citizens and for others that want to be here. Those would be two things I would say.
The thing I would say, one of our huge advantages is this. We have the good fortune of meeting with companies that are coming in over in the legislature. They come up and talk to us. And I can't tell you how many times they say, we don't get this in any other state. We met with a company Friday morning, right? Friday morning that says we never, one of the world's largest companies, and say
You can say the name here.
we say it here,
Yeah.
United Airlines, looking at doing some big things in Wyoming. They say we don't get this anywhere else. We don't get, we all know we've got to work on some building codes and things like that, and we've got to build a legislature to streamline building codes. But our codes overall, and the way we can work on things, you just see when business goes to happen for those who've worked it, things seem to happen. And we've got each other. Why you come here? Because we got you and you and you and me and him. That's why you come here, because we can get things done in Wyoming. We don't have to go to Tallahassee. We don't have to go to Carson City. We don't have to go to Austin. We can come to each other. That's what makes Wyoming special. And I think people feel it when they come into the state and start looking around.
So the United discussion was, we're gonna upgrade the planes coming into Wyoming. They didn't call, and we're gonna have more flights. Because Wyoming is performing. Our numbers have gone up. Their numbers, their employments, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Employments have gone up significant to support better things for Wyoming.
How many jobs will that bring?
How many jobs?
Jobs, J-O-B-S.
Well, but it'll support the industries that are creating jobs, and that's why they're doing it.
Yes.
I don't know if it's gonna give you any more United Airline jobs, but how about it supports the industries that wanna be here so they can be here?
So we want to be respectful of everybody's times. I know there's probably some more questions. We got about 5 minutes till 6. I'm just going to ask each of the senators to kind of wrap up with their thoughts about things that are happening in Wyoming, things you want to talk about. Just really appreciate them being here, but just want to do a quick wrap up. You first, Derek, and then Gary.
All right, well, thank you for your time. I don't need 5 minutes to wrap up. Thank you for your time. Friday was my last 16th day in the Wyoming legislature. After 14 years, I'm going to move on to something else. So, and it's been an honor and a pleasure serving my community, certainly, but Wyoming, and trying to listen, learn, and do the work that makes Wyoming a better place. And you don't always get it right. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries to get things right. But I'll continue to do that through this next week. 1 week left, and then we'll move on to other things. So it's a pleasure to be here. Be glad to talk about any of those things that you might be of interest that are happening right now or happening in the future. Again, August 18th, Republican primary, 27%. Think about some of those things that we talked about earlier. And then, if you want to change Wyoming, you want the Wyoming that you see, you got to change butts and seats. If they're not representing the way you want, you got to change the butts and the seats. Either run for office. That means you either run for office or you support people that are running for office that share the ideals or the values that you do, and make it happen. Make the Wyoming we want to make. I'm a 4th generation ranch kid. I can't take credit or blame for the 3 generations that came before me, but I have a responsibility to the next generation. That's how I approach public service. I think that's what we all, hopefully, how we approach what we're doing now in Wyoming. So, Gary.
Thanks, Eric. No, I'd say some of the similar comments. You know, my family's a 5-generation Wyoming family. We came out with a railroad. We're railroaders by heart. I'm a banker by trade, as you all know. But we got to install Wyoming values. I appreciate people. I'm looking around. I'm just going down here. Almost over half of you emailed me, called me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I respond to you. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, but I try to respond to you and tell you why, and we can have those conversations. And with that, I want to make sure you have my phone number. If not, it's on the website. But just my phone number's 307 and then 399-0286. 307-399-0286. Reach out to me now or this summer, whenever. I will really try to get back to you. Right now, if you've emailed me and I haven't got back, I apologize. There's days when I'm getting over 1,000 emails a day, and it's just really, really hard. You're looking at his staff, my staff is 3 people, me, myself, and I. Our Wyoming's the only state in the nation that has these 2 things combined. Number 1, legislators do not have an office, and legislators do not have a staff in the state of Wyoming. We're truly a citizen legislature, and that's the way it should be. But I want you to know I'm a citizen and a part of LARAMIE. When I ran, those of you who supported me, I appreciate it. But when I ran for office, I said I'm not a politician, I'm a concerned citizen. I'm 2 years into this gig. I'm not a politician. I'm a concerned citizen, and the only way I can help and try to help is for you to reach out. Again, 399-0286. Reach out and call me. And I appreciate everybody on a Saturday night. You got better things to do than be cramped up in here, but I do appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Have some better.
I want to thank you all so much for showing up. I didn't introduce myself. I am Terry Moss, my wife Corey Moss. We're here, like many of you, to help make sure that these great folks are elected into our legislative branch, and just really make sure that they're there to represent us. I just can't thank the spouses enough. So Kelly is in the back. That's Eric's spouse. I know Lois Crum just gives a lot to help support Gary and his family. And then all of you as leaders in LARAMIE. I know so many of you, and those that I don't, I'm just always impressed how we show up in Laramie and Albany County so much differently. And we don't get the opportunity in most of the state to have these representatives of ours show up and really make sure that they're here to speak for us. So they're gonna be around to answer some questions individually, not up here, but just thank you for showing up and believing in what Wyoming is, what America is, and just for the support that we give each one of these gentlemen. Thank you.